Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Oh.
As honoured as I am, young Drew, that you are putting your birthday present to good use for anyone not joining us on YouTube, I bought Drew a mug, which you may be aware of from our last episode, and he's using it to have what I assume is a cup of tea. But that's not our normal tipple for Drewling Samantics, is it?
I know, mate. Well, I thought, I would give the mug its second outing, second episode, but I've got everything in hand. There we go. You're covered on all grounds. Yeah. So I'll put the Drewling Samantics cup of tea down and pick up the Drewling Samantics glass of beer. Have you? Are you suitably?
I wouldn't accuse you of not being ready and not be ready myself. Cheers,
Excellent.
Drew, and cheers everyone
Cheers,
at
mate.
home. Welcome to episode 2 of season 4. Cheers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cheers. Lovely job. Love it.
That's nice and
cool.
cool.
I'm just gonna have another one.
Yeah. This is going to be a very boring episode if you just sit there drinking all the way through.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the point. What's been going on? What have you been up to?
It's a new year and I am busy and I couldn't be happier about it. Honestly.
Brilliant.
I mean, so first things first, I had a meeting earlier in the week with the cast members and the production team of the tour that I go out on mid-February. So that was really exciting, working through some of the things that we need to address for that, and working out what logistics and things we need to prep in advance. So that's amazing to see them. And I also this week had my first photo shoot of 2022. So I've worked at this studio quite a few times. I quite often go and do workshops for them where they have photographers of all different abilities and backgrounds. Some people just starting out, some people high-level professional photographers, but they either want to learn something new, or they want to practice their skills, or they want to work with new models or in a new environment or whatever. But so I went along there and had a really great evening doing some shooting with some very talented photographers. So
Can I just ask, because I'm not having done little photo shoots, but when you go to work, do you have an input into how you're going to, what sort of persona they're going to shoot or whatever? If you know what I mean.
To an extent, yeah. I mean, so Nick, who's one of the guys that runs the studio, he gets in contact with me and says, look, we've got a workshop coming up on blah, blah, blah date. We need a model. Are you free? And I'll say, yeah, absolutely. What do you want me to bring with regards to sort of costume and props?
Right.
Outfits, I should say, not necessarily costume. But so each time I go there, because it's a camera club and because a lot of the members have shot with me before, I try and do something a bit different. So this time round, I went for, because at the moment I'm sporting a little bit of a beard post panto, and haven't had a haircut for a while, and so I went for sort of a grungy kind of rocker look, rather than I could have done sort of like very smart suit and well presented and stuff like that, or I could have gone for, I've done sports stuff for them before, so sort of like sports gear, shorts, vest, whatever, or whatever. We went for sort of an edgy look, so we had sort of some beer bottles strewn around and very kind of dark and moody kind of looking stuff. But it depends entirely. Quite often they will have certain things in mind if they've got a subject they're teaching, or if they're doing a certain kind of workshop, like we're working on, I don't know, couples, how to pose a couple. So if I'm working with another model, then they'll say that to me beforehand and say, right, this is what we're focusing on today, so can you bring stuff that fits in with that? Or alternatively, quite often I will say, right, here's a few pictures of options I've got, pick and choose, and I'll bring that stuff along. So it's very much a collaboration in that respect. I always wondered how that
I always wondered how that worked. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
interesting stuff.
Okay, but so that's been my week. What about yourself?
I most of this we've started rehearsals for the and again something I've been chatting about for the virtual reality, the second part second part of Mission to Mars. So we shot the other one July, August, or end of August last year. And then because they've got 3 episodes, 3 modules, because it's essentially an education tool. So we make these films, and then the students, who are all high-end business degrees and doctorates, they put the VR headsets on, and they are able then to extend their decision-making and team building exercise. So this is an extension of what they would get in a lecture theatre. So we started rehearsing the second part, which is great because there were 5 of us in the first episode, and now there are 2 teams, and we are in separate areas on Mars, and we are interacting and problem solving. So you've got one team that are doing one method of work and another team who are using another way of working, and their students are deciding which one is more efficient, or so. It has to be very accurately done. I think I said in the past, all the dialogue has been ordered over by psychologists and educational psychologists. So you've got to be literally word perfect, and also say it in a way that the camera and the technology works. So if on day 1 you get or take 1, you sit in a particular way, you put your arm in a particular, you have to stay there, or you have to do that take after take after take, because you set a pattern for the camera to follow or whatever. And it's like, oh, great, Wow. But you have to be word perfect. And these things are taken in one long take, obviously, because of the nature of VR. So previous scene was about 8-9 minutes long. And if you got all the way through that scene and then one person or something went wrong in the last 20 seconds, that's it. Cut, go back and do the whole thing again. And you cannot use that previous take. So we ended up with 4, they called 4 perfect, 4 clean takes last time. Yeah. But thankfully this time, all the sequences, they learned from that. And all the sequences are a lot shorter. So we have nothing beyond longer than about a 3-minute take. But even then,
it's still substantial.
It's a longer take than average in unless it's a big action shot in movies. But then you've got multiple cameras. You've got on an action sequence, you'd have a dozen cameras maybe, and God knows how many units. This is one camera sitting there, and you're looking at it going, "Don't cock up, don't cock up."
It would be me 100%. If we were doing a 9-minute take, we'd get to 8:58, and I'd everyone would hate me. I know it would be.
There is that moment of relief, because I know the take was 40 seconds, 8 minutes 40 seconds long. I said my last line, my last moment of going, "Oh God, don't cock it up," after about 8 minutes 15. So I had about 25-30 seconds sitting there with a smug look on my face going, "I finished. Anyone cocks up now? Not my fault." And there was great relief, and you could see as it went around, as each person finished their last little bit, there was I sort of went, and it was lovely.
Changed.
Yeah, but hence why we do 4. I mean, people saying 4 days rehearsal. Yeah, it's very technical. So we started that process this week, and we'll shoot next week. But I also last week, and I went up to Hull and did my first Faulty gig with Mr. Ed Wells as Mr. Faulty. We were at the High Society Showman's Fellowship, British Showman. And it was all the people that you go to a fair or a circus, and there are all the booths around. Yeah. And these are the guys that and their families that put all those things into a fair. So you'd have all the the darts and the shooting and the prize, all those. And I think there were a couple of people that did the rides as well. but they were all the people that have been doing that for generations. So there were some traveller families there, some carny families, wonderful bunch of people, and we welcomed 500 on Sunday night. So we were doing a meet and greet as Baz and Manuel and welcoming him into the hotel foyer. A little bit of a laugh. That was it. But we were there from 1 o'clock through till 6. 5 hours of meeting and greeting. But there were another 250 people staying at another hotel. They were joining them on the following night for the big bash. So we were only dealing with 500 people, but they were really great. It was great fun to do. And of course, they just love a laugh. They're performers as well, So we had a good time. It was great fun.
Amazing. Oh,
yeah.
Glad.
But also, I have spent my week reflecting on what a great episode 1 was, which was just you and me. But of course, we've got our first guest of the season.
Finally, 2022 kicks into its first guest epised of Drewling Samantics. And this is a guy I know very well. I've worked with him before. And he's got a very a job that we know well, but he's also got a very unique job he does various bits within the industry, but part of it is very niche but hugely interesting.
It really is a very, very long tradition as well.
Absolutely. Well, tradition is probably his ball game, really, when you look at the main jobs he does. Certainly age-old British tradition has played a big part in his career, and he's a young man, and he's been hugely successful in a very short amount of time. So it's
not unrelated to where I was at the weekend with the showman side, which I'm sure when he'll elaborate on as well. And actually,
I think we should allow him to elaborate now, because he is about to join us. He's sat and waiting. So, shall we invite him in, Drew?
Let him in. Let him enter.
Here we go. Hello, Jamie. How are you, mate? I haven't seen you for ages. Welcome to Drewling Samantics. Mate.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Mind you, at the moment, it's a pleasure to be anywhere.
Very true. Allow me to introduce Drew, although I do know that you guys have met many years prior. But yes, this is my partner in crime, Drew. Drew, this is the incredibly talented Mr. Jamie Riding. So
Well, it's got to be about 6 years ago, Jamie. I think I was down in the wilds of Yeovil when we met. So
the fabulous Peter Pan as Captain Hook.
I was villaining one of my little breaks.
You're still very Dame-like though, with your green eyeshadow.
Never under made up, mate. Never under made up. But before we go too far down memory lane, for those who have not had the inestimable pleasure of meeting you, can't say that word, immeasurable pleasure. Tell us all about your wonderful, glorious self.
Well, I am Jamie Riding, a pantomime dame and a Punch and Judy professor, and anything that pays, really. And I am.
We're going to have to stop already, because he's talking horrendous. No, carry on. Anything that pays within the industry, let's just specify there before we get complaints.
I'm autistic. It's fine. I can say what I want. Fine.
Yeah. Do we ever regret having people on within the first minute of them speaking? I'm not sure we've hit that target.
I think we might have broken a record. Yeah.
30 seconds, I think, isn't it?
Anyway, carry on, please. As Drew said, please.
So yes, I have been doing Punch and Judy this year for 10 years, and this year is my 5th year in Panto, and I've had 6 Panto contracts in those 5 years.
And just to sort of illustrate how much of an achievement that is, Jamie, tell everyone how old you are, please.
I'm 22.
22.
So I was 22. I was 22 on Monday.
Oh yes, of course you were. Yeah, just a few days ago. Yeah.
Happy birthday!
Happy belated
so much.
birthday.
Happy birthday!
But yeah, so to have 10 years of experience as a Punch and Judy professor and to have 5 years worth of pantomime performances under your belt at the age of 22 is nothing short of incredible. And I've had the pleasure of sharing a stage with you, and we had a great time doing so. But your career has sort of almost, I'd say, skyrocketed since we worked together. It was your first foray.
It's all
into
down to you,
panto,
Sam.
wasn't it? Oh,
It's all down to you.
Well, that's the effect I have on people. They come and work with me.
The dressing room 3 boys, weren't we?
Well, yes, indeed. But yeah, so explain to people how you kind of got into the work that you do, and what about it sort of attracted you.
Money, really.
No.
No,
I mean, you're going to have to explain to Drew and I how you've got into this and earned money, because we haven't done that yet, have we?
It's a mystery.
So no, I'll start off with the Punch and Judy. So Punch and Judy, I saw when I was 9 or 10, maybe a bit older, and I thought I want to do that, so I did. You know, it's quite as simple as that. And for that Christmas, my family bought me a set of puppets and a booth, and then a week later, I went out and did my first paid show.
Wow!
And then I had my first summer season that same year, or the year obviously after that Christmas, and I've been doing it ever since. And even some of the gigs I do now are still the same people that I did gigs for back then. So I must be doing something right, or I'm too cheap.
Well,
Yeah, you're pricing yourself too low, mate.
Yeah.
Price yourself out the show.
So,
But, I mean,
sorry, Drew. Just for obviously the majority of our audience are UK based, but we do have listeners all around the world. For anyone that isn't familiar with the term Punch and Judy is a British staple from the seaside. I think the simplest way to put it is it's a puppet show in a booth on a beach, normally, or very close to the seaside, where some ridiculous wooden puppets spend a period of time. Yes, anyone lucky enough to be watching us on YouTube, Jamie's got some of his incredible cast members behind him. But they're just nutty characters that kind of spend the whole time fighting and arguing.
So it's interesting you say this, Sam, saying it's a seaside tradition. So, bit of history for you.
Oh, here we go.
Punch
Get
and
your
Judy was
notebooks out, ladies and gents.
first started in 1662 in Covent Garden, London.
Wow.
And back then it was known as the Punchinella show, and and panto and puppets all date back together from Commedia dell'arte. So it's all so the character of Punch is the comic, and Judy is the dame, and it's all the same sort of mixture, but just it's ended up in 2 different genres, if you like.
Yeah.
And it was they used to tackle quite serious subjects, because through the medium of the puppets, they could the performers would criticize the nobleman, the king. They even went as far as criticizing the king. So the policeman in the show represents authority, which they lampoon. Punch and Judy are I believe that the common people, aren't they? He's the everyman character. And the theft is that they are all date back to I think some of them have points of history that they bring up and use to criticize the crown and the status quo and the lords and ladies of the land, which is where I'm my big commedia fan and practitioner. I did a lot of commedia years ago, and that was all used to criticize the state. So you had the doctor, you had the lord, you had Punchinella. They were all used as guises in which to chip away at the status quo. So yeah. So I know that. I knew that.
All right, I'm the only one that's uneducated, and that's
no, not at all. No.
It sounds about right.
Yeah, and that's the difference. Drew obviously wants to keep this going, and he's being nice to me. Jamie's like, no, I know, Sam. He's sick of shit. Anyway, I will let you continue. So you obviously got into you fell in love with Punch and Judy from watching it, and thanks to support from family, you then went on into it. And how did that develop into sort of almost a full-time job, or certainly a career?
Well, yeah.
And where did Panto kick in?
Well, that's another one. So I've been seeing Panto since I was tiny. So, and it's actually, funnily enough, because I've got Asperger's syndrome, which is a type of autism, and with Asperger's you normally have one particular interest, and mine is performing and theatre and comedy. And funnily enough, when I was a toddler and very, very young, I never found the theatre comfortable. I hated it. I was terrified of it. And the day that changed was I went to go and see a show called Get Up and Go at the Bournemouth International Centre. Now, this show called Get Up and Go was specifically for people who found theatre too much and noise was too much. So it was kind of the first thing of a relaxed performance. And I was lucky enough to work with the man that presented it and worked on the show, Mr. Dave Benson Phillips, this Christmas.
Yes.
So without Dave, I wouldn't be doing theatre or anything like that.
He's an amazing man, isn't he? I mean, he's probably one of the most influential and talented men in children's television, I would say. And I think he opened up television and theatre to hundreds of thousands of children and audience members. I mean, I take my hat off to the man, because he's not only apart from anything else, he's just a bloody nice bloke as well, isn't he? I mean, I've not had the pleasure of meeting him, but I've just heard him talk, and he's just an amazing guy.
There he is. There he is. Hang on.
There we go. So Jamie's got a lovely poster from Panto featuring the aforementioned Mr. Dave Benson Phillips. So, but yeah, and I guess specifically then with Panto, Jamie, why Dame? Why? Of all the characters, I mean, you're into comedy, so there's the element of the host or the comic or whatever you want to call him, the silly Billy character or simple Simon or whatever. I used to be as a child, I used to go to Butlins on holiday, and I always, for some reason, just used to like the Dame character, but that was always the part that I focused on the most because of the costumes and the colour, yada yada yada. And I saw a fabulous Dane called Michael J. Batchelor, and he is, in my opinion, the best of the best. His costumes, his character, his everything. I saw him in Aladdin Rocks at Butlins, and I thought, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. And from then, that Christmas when I got home, it was when I was in year 11 at school, and my drama teacher, her husband used to play Dame in Panto many moons ago and still had the costumes. Okay. So she said to me, in our Christmas concert this year, do you want to do a couple of spots as Dame to give it a go? And I went, yes. Yeah. So she just let me get on with it, do it. And I thought, right, okay, I'm going to give it a go. So I did it. Loved it, and I thought, yeah, this is where I belong. And then when I had the Leavers Assembly in year 11, I performed my Dame character in front of my whole school year group, which could have gone one of two ways. Very well, or I wouldn't be alive right now. So luckily it went very well. And obviously doing what I do, people, yes, bullying, yada, yada, yada. But from that performance onwards, people came up to me and they went, I'm so sorry. Wow. You're so good and brilliant at what we do. I'm so sorry. And then the year after that, I went back and played Dame again in the Christmas Gala. Then I think it must have been, it was that year. So it was the same year that I was with you, Sam. Right.
So this is just Ron Martin in a nutshell right now.
So Ron Martin is a Panto producer.
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know his name, I've worked with him a few times. Lovely guy. Jamie's worked with him as well. Drew, I think you've met. Have you worked with Ron, or you've?
I
certainly know Ron?
auditioned for Ron. I auditioned for him to do panto in Wimborne one year.
Which is where we were, interestingly enough.
And yeah, and I for whatever reason, I couldn't do it in the end. It clashed with something, so I didn't. But I knew Ron. I know some of the guys that he managed, comics that he managed over the years. So yeah, lovely guy.
And so I saw, must have been Sleeping Beauty the year after you did it, Sam.
Yeah.
And I saw Ron in the foyer. And from this day onwards, I've always used this. If you see an opportunity, go for it. So Ron was in the foyer at the TIFF. And I walked up to him and I went, "You're Ron Martin, aren't you?" He went, "Yes, why?" I said, "Because you need to employ me next year." That's what I said to him. And he went, "Here's my card. I like that. Speak to me." So we were in talks about what was going to happen, etc., etc. And I came along to your photo shoot, and I didn't think I was going to get anything or anything like that. And he said, "Do you fancy playing Chinese policeman?" And I went, "Pardon?" And so, yeah, just from me asking, "You need to employ me," or telling him he needs to employ me, I got a job.
Yeah. And as they say, the rest is history. I mean, you've
the rest is history.
Exactly.
From strength to strength, and it's an incredible advert for anyone out there who is passionate about theatre or indeed passionate about anything. If you pursue something, and if you are really that into it, that kind of enamored with wanting to do something, then you've just got to chase that dream, haven't you? And you've just got to kind of go, this is what I want to be doing. I'm going to find a way of doing that. And you,
if you don't ask, you don't get.
No,
absolutely.
And clearly, Jamie, you've got the talent to back that up. So yeah, it's a double whammy. Chutzpah and talent goes a long way. I've got to ask something. I mean, as one dame to another here. I was in Potter's Bar, as our listeners, viewers know, this year playing Dame in Beauty and the Beast. Where were you this year? And you got to wear some wonderful costumes that have got a fabulous history. Worn by a very.
I was in Clacton at the Princess Theatre in Jack and the Beanstalk playing Dame Daisy Trot. My dame's always called Daisy because she just is.
Yeah.
She has her name. She has her profile, shall we say, or as she likes to call it, her selling point. Whatever that means, I don't know. But yes, so my costumes I got to wear this year were once belonged to the late great star of Are You Being Served and legendary pantomime dame, Mr. John Inman. So very, very lucky. Earlier on this year, I became very good friends with another fabulous dame called Malcolm Lord, who is the resident dame at the Lyceum Theatre in Crewe for Crossroad Pantomimes, and he was also inside Bungle on Rainbow. He was Bungle, and he was also the original George.
Oh, wow.
So
I realised he did both. I knew he played
so
both,
he started off playing George, and then after the performer who originally played Bungle decided not to do it anymore, he jumped into that, and someone else came in and puppeteered George. And that's how he got into panto, is because of playing Bungle. He started doing all the shows and pantos, then worked with John, and he became John's understudy and right-hand man. And when John went off, Malcolm went on and played Dame for John. And when John sadly passed away, he left all of his costumes to Malcolm.
Beautiful.
And then obviously, as Malcolm is the resident dame in Crewe, they've seen everything. So he said to me, "Do you want them?"
Wow.
Good Lord.
So I own pretty much everything. I own John's strip routine. I own his very famous Chinese plate costume. And this is probably one of his most well-known opening costumes, and that's the costume that I used in Clacton.
That's right.
Cool. So if our anyone out there isn't watching on YouTube, if you were to search for the Clacton pantomime just gone, so 2021, you'll see Jamie in all his glory in one of the incredible late great Mr. John Inman's fantastic costumes. So what an honour to get to sort of to wear those and to almost carry on his legacy, I suppose.
That's the thing. And I'm not really one to believe in spiritual stuff like this until now. So a few things odd have happened throughout this Christmas.
Okay.
First one being John's autograph appearing on the big wooden gondola flight case thing, which is basically a big wooden wardrobe that was never there before.
Wow.
So that was that. And my costume lady, the lovely Janine Long, who worked with myself and Sam in 2017, and she's fabulous lady. And she's now my go-to costume person. So a lot of good things have come out from that job, Sam.
Well, it's making connections, isn't it, mate? So you meet people and you end up doing things, and people pass on. Drew and I have talked about this a lot. It's an industry where everyone knows someone who knows someone who knows. There's always sort of 2 or 3 degrees of separation within our industry, but because of that, we're able to help each other out a lot, and you're able to pass things on and recommend things, and just to speak to people on behalf of others. And it's always easy to go, I know someone that does that. I can give you a name. I can give you a number. And that's a lovely, lovely thing about our industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yes. So the other couple of things that happened was when Janine was working on my finale costume, the back of it has a cape on it. And obviously I'm slightly larger than John. She had to put some panels in some places, just the odd 3 meters here and there. Yes, I don't exactly take an extra small, do I? Let's be honest. But there's 2 words I need to learn. I'm full. Anyway.
Oh God.
So she was moving the cape on the costume, and she said, I hope you don't mind me lowering this, John. She went to go and get a couple of pins out of her costume bag. The cape was back up where it was originally.
No way. That's just spooky. That's spooky.
So that's another thing that happened. And also on the last day, this is very odd, and I may have been, tired or whatever, but I'm certain this happened. So before the start of the show, I was getting a bit sad because obviously it was the last show. And I just felt this very warm, loving hand touch my shoulder. And I looked up and there was no one there.
God.
And then the last thing I did, so taking my face off and things are getting all sorted out on that. And my makeup mirror, so I'm here and the costumes are over there on the rail. And I'm 100% certain that it was John's voice saying, you did good, kid.
Wow.
That's nice.
And I thought it was Dave or someone else. No one was in there. And I've spoken to people who knew John, and that's the sort of thing he'd say.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's as I say, I didn't believe in that sort of thing, but I have a bit of a feeling that John might be my guardian angel or something like that. It's a nice thought to have.
If there's anyone going to sit on your shoulder and look after you, then it's John Inman would be one of my choices. I tell you, he's a wonderful dame, really was. Yeah, there are some good ones. I mean, I started as I remember going to see one of my first pantos, and I watched the villain, because the villain, you got the funny guy, you got the dame, and I was about 5 or 6, and I didn't quite understand what the dame was about. But I knew the villain as a bad man. Yeah, I know. I'm still learning, which is wonderful. But I was always drawn to play the villain because the dame and the comic were getting laughs, but he was getting oohs and boos and laughs as well. And I thought I really liked that. So I was always drawn to play the villain. And my training, my sort of classical theatre training lent itself to doing that. So I love that. And I've told the story before. Sam knows it. I directed Panto. Dame was taken ill, and I took over from the Dame because I knew the lines, but I hadn't, and it was almost a natural change. So I went, I'm playing villain, but I'm just going to be nice. And your control over the audience, what you want them to do, you don't want them to boo, you want them to laugh. So, but the methods of conditioning and control and response are pretty much the same. And I went, I like this. I like the laughs that I get rather than the boos, and also I like the frocks and I like the makeup, and I really enjoyed that persona, and the power that Dame has is also wonderful. I mean,
do we need to tell Verona about this? Do we need to speak to your wife and warn her that
Verona actually, Verona's my wife, Jamie, and I borrowed the Dame's stuff. The guy who was playing Dame, obviously I took over from him, so I used his costumes. And then the next year, the producer said to me, "Right, I've got another show. Would you like to do Dame?" And I went, "Yes, please." But I made a load. I sat down and I had a whole year and I made costumes. I borrowed stuff. I bought bits. But the one thing I didn't have was a good pair of tits. And I came home one day.
I have several. It's fine.
I do now.
What has this descended into? I do.
This. But I came out and my wife said,
Sam.
"It's Panto Sam." It goes on all year. But she made me my first decent pair of tits, and I've still got them. And they come out for high days and holidays. But I arrived home, my wife just held up and said, "There you are." She said, "It's based on one of mine, but I've added a few inches that I might have wanted."
Hang on. And I'm going down a rabbit hole now, that's for sure. But it's based on one of mine.
One of her bras.
Oh,
one of her bras.
She
took one of her bras.
I was like,
No.
what? Why would you just go, well, no, that one. That's the one.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going any further down there, but I mean,
we'll stop it there. But
yeah,
I was going to say, you raised an interesting point, and I'd never thought about it really, but the similarities between the villain and the Dame are actually, they are both rude, essentially, or they're both quite abrupt, and I mean, any interaction you have with the audience tends to be insults to a degree. Even though the Dame is lovable but she often says things that you probably shouldn't get away with. She's just quite brash, and the similarities between her and the villain are actually more than you'd first think about, I suppose.
It's the status thing as well, isn't it, Jamie? Because I mean, Dame is high. She's the highest status in the whole Panto is the Dame.
Yeah.
And you know, your next is maybe villain and comic, because I mean, villain also holds the story, but he steps out with them as well.
The way that I say it is the Dame, comic, and villain, they are the bread of the show. The rest of it is the filling of the sandwich.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and villains, he has that double role because he's very much part of the story. He's very much part of the storyline, and interacts with, you know, he's kidnapping Princess Jasmine if he's Abanazar, he's doing this, you know, and you know, but then he'll step out and have a relationship with the audience, and step out and have a relationship with the Dame and the comic that is something else, and then steps back in, and they control that. You know, the villain, the Dame, and comic, they control how much of that, how gently that's done. And as you say, Sam, some Dames are very brash and very in your face. I mean, bless his heart, Dave Lee, who was an amazing Dame, an amazing comic, and he could be as sweet and lovely. I mean, he was a big man in later life, and I only worked with him once, and a gentleman. But he could be as brash and as tough and as hard as you like. But then he could just turn that and make you cry with how sweet this 6 foot, 18 stone man could suddenly make you go,
bonkers.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You know,
very, very.
That wonderful.
Isn't
control.
it bonkers?
Yeah.
So I have a question for you both. How long did it take you to get ready?
Oh, God. Well, this is going to be a pissing contest, isn't it? So So I'm already onto a loser here because you two being dames, it takes you about 6 months, basically. What if you take into account making costumes and stuff? But I assume, Jamie, you're talking about pre-show ritual and routine.
Yeah.
So I have to say, it depends entirely. So I've played a few different characters, mainly villains. I played
typecast.
I can just click end on this call and get rid of it. Anyway, long story short, I once played the Beast in Beauty and the Beast. That actually took about an hour and a half because I had a full prosthetic fitted and full kind of heavy makeup. So that was actually much more substantial. But normally when I play villain, so for example, Flesh Creep in Jack and the Beanstalk or Abanazar in Aladdin, as when we work together, about probably half an hour. I guess it kind of sits in the middle.
Blooming eyebrows you have. Those eyebrows
and facial hair and whatever else. And I would say it probably sort of sits in the middle. If you think about a comic, traditionally the comic does sort of his rosy cheeks, maybe some freckles, bit of base, but very simplistic makeup. On the other end, as you're going to give an example in a minute, I'm sure, the dame has fairly substantial because you are more often than not, and obviously we're in modern times now, so it's not always the case, but more often than not, a man becoming a woman for a dame. So you have to very much feminize your features and lots and lots of over-the-top makeup because that's what Panto is all about. So I'm going to guess that most dames probably take an hour or so, possibly a little bit more. And then for villainy, I used to accent, so almost always eyeliner, and then accenting other things with a bit of black, whatever, here, there, and everywhere, just to give that evil kind of feel or that dark and broody or whatever. But not broody, brooding. That was, yeah.
Wrong.
I'm the first pregnant Abanazar. No.
Wrong.
Ignore that. But
makes
yeah,
the whole new meaning of the genie coming out the lamp, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, we just won't go into these. Yes, we are one massive put. Anyway, yeah, there he is.
Say nothing. Morning.
Yes. So to answer your question, I would say on average, probably around half an hour it takes me to do my standard or an adaptation of my normal Panto makeup. Now blow me away and show everyone how
Drew.
much. Yeah.
You go first.
I'm probably I would give myself an hour at least. That's from taking my street clothes off and then base to final kind of she's ready to go. If I've not got an hour, I panic a little bit. I don't feel comfortable. How about yourself, Jamie?
So it gets less throughout the run normally. So when I first started this year, it was interesting because throughout most of this year, I was at Butlins playing Octavia, the evil mermaid in Little Mermaid. So I had very evil, big eyebrows, big loads of glitter, grey face, and all that sort of thing. So I had to change from that, going back to the subtleties of the dame. So when I first started again, it took me about an hour and a half, hour and 20. And that was just face, that like forget about, the rest of it. And then the other extreme of it is I could get in at the half, put it on, off we go. I could easily do that. On the last week, I was like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
You
I
get
just
into a routine.
whoop, bang, done.
But no, it's such a. I think it's almost impossible to explain to people how Panto is as an entity, and appreciate. Obviously, we are now in late January, so Panto for almost everyone is over. There are a couple of companies that run till late.
There are a
January,
couple still running.
I'm going to
the
go
majority
to
of
Birmingham
us
on next Tuesday.
Wow. But
So
yeah,
I've got to see Birmingham.
Yeah, the majority of companies sort of finish either late December or very early January. So we're kind of past Panto, but it's still lovely to kind of look back and go, we've just finished another very successful panto season. It's wonderful that these things have still been able to continue. So that's why it's amazing to be able to chat to you and to kind of go, wow, what a job we do, and what goes into it. And as I said, I think people, you really kind of need to be involved to kind of really appreciate it, or have the opportunity to kind of see what goes on that all gets put together for what is essentially the most free kind of theatre, I guess. Sort of improv. It's
for me, panto never stops. I'm constantly thinking about new ideas, costume ideas, anything. It's an ongoing thing for me. I mean, even during the run, I was still thinking, oh, I could use that for next time. Oh, I could do this, I could do the other. As a dame and as a comic, I suppose it's something you have to constantly think about, because there's so much costume wise, script wise, that I mean, for me personally, that I'm involved in, especially working for the fabulous Anton Benson. He allows me to do my own opening spot and a few of my own bits and bobs throughout the show, which I feel very lucky to be able to do. And it went down very well this year, which is why I put it in the show. And it's a constant thing of thinking about the next gag, thinking about the next routine, the next whatever, and it's just a revolving cycle of thoughts and ideas for me personally.
It's always ongoing, and yes, the performances may only be around Christmas or around the winter period, but it is a year-long job, particularly prepping and stuff. But now, speaking of jobs, we're very aware that you've got to run off and do something else, so we don't want to keep you too much longer. But to finish off, Jamie, can you please leave us with, I'm sure you've seen the show and you know that we like to finish with some sort of anecdote from all our guests. So can you please tell us a very brief story that will leave our audiences smiling?
So here we go. Story time with Jamie. My nickname from Dave Benson Phillips to me is Yum Yum.
Yum Yum.
Now,
okay.
The reason being for this is in the local bakery they sell Yum Yums, and in Clacton, and you get two for the price of one. So I thought, oh, I'll have that. Very nice. Yeah, thank you. And then I got into the theatre. It was in between shows, and I thought, I don't really fancy the other one. But I'm sure, as you know, Drew, you're in your skin suit, your pull-up pants, your dressing gown, whatever. So I had that on. Anyway, I walk into my dressing room, and I walk up to Dave, and I had a bit of a sort of I throughout the run, I had a little bit of a lurgy, but it wasn't the dreaded C word or anything like that. No. So I did all the tests and yada, yada, yada. And I walked up to Dave, and I went, Dave, do you want to share my Yum Yum? Not thinking of what I was saying or anything like that. And he went, pardon? Went, do you want to share my Yum Yum? He went, to be honest, Jamie, you're currently standing in your skin suit, which looks quite real. And the way you're saying that makes it sound even more real. So quite currently, I think I might have to decline. That's why I love Dave Benson Phillips.
I mean, if there's ever a story to dine out on for the rest of your life, grandchildren and whatever else, Dave Benson Phillips turned down my Yum Yum.
Well, this is it. And whenever he was late or anyone else was late, they went, sorry, I was just having a go on Jamie's Yum Yum.
Lovely.
I think you've found the title of your autobiography, mate. I mean, have a go on my Yum Yum. I mean, it's...
Sounds about right, really, doesn't it?
Right, yeah.
Bit fatty, bit greasy. Makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah, your holiday starts here, as they say, yeah.
And on that, I don't know what kind of note, I think we should probably let you go before we descend into complete and utter ridiculousness. Jamie, it's wonderful, as always, to see you and catch up, mate. Thank you so much for coming on the show and joining us.
No worries. It's been my honour, and I'll be surprised if this actually airs, to be honest, but there we go.
Yeah, well, it's all right. We've got a backup show, so we'll just push this one to later in the year. No, you've been an absolute star. Thank you so much. Congratulations on all your amazing successes. And And
Thank you.
yeah, for anyone down in the Dorset area, please do check out Professor J, as Jamie is known.
JR, Professor JR.
Professor JR,
Professor
sorry,
JR.
Professor JR. Go and check out.
And if you
Professor
need to
J.
book a Punch and Judy show, let me know, because I still have some availability for the summer, and I do travel for money.
Yeah,
And yums.
yeah,
Yeah.
money or yums, and away we go. No, honestly, mate, thank you so very much.
Yeah,
for coming
thank
on.
you, mate. Been lovely.
We'll see you very soon, if not before Christmas. So take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
And see you later.
Yes.
Take care. Bye.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, mate.
I tell you what, Sam. I mean, what? I mean, I said you said he got great energy, and we just wind him up, and let him go. But very funny, very funny, very lovely man.
Yeah, very talented young man as well. To have achieved so much and to be doing what he's doing at such a young age, brilliant. And stardom lies ahead for him.
I think so, mate. I think so.
Yeah. But an absolute joy to have him on, and hugely interesting to hear sort of how a passion for something can suddenly explode into a full-blown career.
Yeah. Oh, he's obviously. I mean, he was obviously destined for it, wasn't it? I mean, you know, I can't imagine, you know, Jamie sitting in an office selling insurance at all. You know,
no,
built for show business.
He's more the Go Compare man than selling Go Compare, isn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah, genius. I'm glad, and it's. I mean, the lovely thing is, he knows his stuff. You know, he knows his history. He knows, and he's learning. He's, you know, and talking to people. I mean, it's such. I mean, it is a good example of how, you know, to enter the business young and to really learn your stuff and know your stuff, because it's great fun. And also, you know, interesting, you know, to keep the sale of yums on the up.
Well, I mean, we've not got a sponsor this season as yet, but maybe we should have a word with someone like Greg's or other bakeries. Fast food. What?
I don't know.
Other places where you buy things like sausage rolls and sandwiches are available.
And yums. Yeah.
And yums. Mainly yum.
Amy Riding, the face of the British yum. There we go.
And if he gets a sponsorship deal before we do, I'm going to be most pissed off.
Yeah.
No, it was an absolute joy. And how exciting to have our first guest of season 4.
There we go. Yeah.
So, many more to come as well, mate. Many more exciting people.
Yeah, some good ones to come. Yeah.
But,
talking of which, what you got coming up?
Get the words right out of my mouth. So I'm back on the voiceover train. I have two audiobooks currently in production. So the third novel in the Wasteland Road Nights series by Mr. Andrew Dobell. So the second one has just finished production stage. So hopefully we'll be appearing very soon on Amazon Audible. So anyone out there want to check it out, please do go and search The Wasteland Road Nights, and you can hear my dulcet tones if you don't hear them enough on the podcast. But as various different characters. So the first 2 volumes, the first 2 novels in that series, one is already out and 2 is basically being released very soon. So I'm recording volume 3 of The Wasteland Road Nights, and I've also got a book of horror stories which I'm voicing as well, so that should be
nice.
So more info about that when I come to it, but yeah, so I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this studio sat in front of this microphone talking, which I do quite well. What about yourself, sir? Because you've got the VR coming up, but I'm sure you've got other bits as well.
Yeah, we've got another couple of days of rehearsal for that, and then we shoot that over 2 days coming up next week. Mm-hmm. So we go into a green screen studio, and then we do a load of other voiceover stuff and 2D stuff in another studio. I've also got what have I got coming? I've got some stuff at the Jungle. We're back in the Jungle Monkeys adventure, so that's coming up. So we're Yes, I'm back on my adventures. I'll be sticking my hat on and jungle drewing away. So yeah, that's going to be most of my week. Interestingly, I've just been asked by the charity Listening Books to read one of their children's books. So I've just been sent that, so I'll be reading that this week and preparing that for a read. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Amazing.
That's going to be my week, rehearsing and reading.
Wow. I mean, isn't it good to be busy? Like,
Lovely.
Really positive.
It's lovely.
It's
Lovely,
busy.
yeah.
And it's a big sign that we as an industry are truly fighting back and are rising from the ashes, and everything should be bigger and better than ever. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Crossed, mate. And I guess all that's left to say is cheers to you, Drew. And,
Cheers.
Cheers to everyone listening or watching in. Hope you've enjoyed this episode and enjoyed listening and hearing all about Mr. Jamie Riding. And we shall see you all next week for another episode of Drewling Samantics with me and Drew. Take it easy, mate. See you later, everyone at home. Cheers.
Take it easy, mate. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks again for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
If you have, then please consider subscribing to our channel and you'll get notified every time a new video is released. Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app.
Please support us on other social media too. We're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and all our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so please share with your family and friends and we'll be eternally grateful. Stay safe and we'll see you next time.